All right, the end of the New Deal. President Roosevelt runs for re-election in 1936, and he has challengers from both the left and the right. On the left, we have the Union Party formed, organized by Father Coughlin, who we talked about last time, and really supported, some of these people were supporters of Huey Long, who was assassinated before the election. They nominate an old progressive named William Lemke from North Dakota, a Democrat as well. Obviously, Roosevelt has challenges from the right, and the Liberty League, along with the wealthy, get the Republicans to nominate Governor Alfred Landon, a Republican from Kansas. And he would not campaign against popular New Deal programs, however. He knew how beloved some of these New Deal programs were and is not willing to go out on the campaign trail and bash some of the things that many Americans are really thankful for. FDR calls some of his challenges, especially those from the right, economic royalists. And he says, I welcome their hatred. And really, we see here how he's playing to the masses. He's playing to the poor. He's playing to the economically disgruntled. And he wins overwhelmingly. He wins even more votes than he won when he was running against old Herbert Hoover in 1932. It is an electoral landslide. And in terms of popular votes, getting 61% of the popular vote is pretty much a popular landslide in American elections. And it wasn't just Roosevelt. Normally when a president does well, his party does well. And that was true in 1936. The Democrats gained an even larger majority in Congress. The reason they were so successful in 1936 is in part due to something called the New Deal Coalition. This is the group of voters that come together and are going to form the backbone of the Democratic Party, some of them up until today. It includes urban voters. It includes Western voters. It includes Southern voters. Now, Southerners have since jumped to the Republican Party. It includes immigrants. It includes labor, especially organized labor. It includes African Americans. And during the Great Depression, Roosevelt is able to get many of the people that we normally consider middle class to vote for the Democratic Party. During the Great Depression, during the New Deal, the Republican Party is made up mainly of the rich, the wealthy, and some rural and small town Americans of American birth. FDR sees his big electoral win and, like many presidents, determines that he's received a mandate from the public. The American people have told him at the voting booth, we support you, go do what it is you do. During his first term, the Supreme Court had been problematic. They had ruled several New Deal programs unconstitutional, most notably the National Recovery Administration, the NRA, and the Agricultural Adjustment Administration, the AAA. Few of the Supreme Court justices consistently agreed with FDR's approach to solving the Great Depression. Many of them would have preferred a laissez-faire approach, what Hoover was doing, rely on volunteerism, and let the economy sort itself out. For example, conservative William Van Devanter actually delayed his retirement when FDR won in 1932. He was all set to retire, but knowing that a liberal president was coming in, he decided to stay on so that he could hopefully block some of the changes Roosevelt was planning. FDR tells the public that the court is behind because of the age of some of the justices. So he asks Congress to create new Supreme Court justice positions. Like all Supreme Court justice positions, these would be filled by the president. So FDR says that the Congress should create a new position on the court to make up for any judge that's currently over 70 years old. The current justices keep their job. We just add a seat to the Supreme Court. And he says that Congress should create up to 6 new positions. This is legal, The Constitution says nothing about the number of judges on the Supreme Court. In fact, it has changed a few times in our nation's history. However, this is such a blatant attempt for FDR to put people on the Supreme Court that would agree with him and help him pass the laws that he has had ruled unconstitutional, that this upsets both conservatives and some liberals. Liberals like Senator Burton Wheeler from Montana, who was a Democrat, were worried that this was setting a dangerous precedent. What would stop a Republican president from doing the same if he was in power? So Wheeler and other Democrats actually lead the fight in Congress against this action, which is sometimes known as the Supreme Court packing plan. It looks like Roosevelt is playing politics, and this angers the public. Labels like court packing plan really stick and really cast this in a negative light. Cartoons like this one were common and helped to turn the public's opinion against Roosevelt's position on the Supreme Court. The court makes a public statement that they are not behind, but then they go and rule in favor of some New Deal laws. They rule in favor of Social Security and rule that it is constitutional and legal. They rule in favor of the Wagner Act, that law that really helped organize labor, and they say that it's constitutional and legal. Eventually, Van Devanter retires, and Roosevelt will appoint 4 more justices in later years. As a result, he doesn't have many more problems with the Supreme Court. However, Congress is no longer willing to follow every order from FDR. Early on in his administration, they were basically rubber stamping what FDR recommended. Now, it's not the case. After the court packing scheme fails, FDR is going to have few legislative successes. In 1938, he passes the Fair Labor Standards Act, which creates a minimum wage and maximum hours for jobs. That's one of his big achievements. However, he failed to get a national health insurance policy in place. And this is something that is going to plague Democrats for the rest of the century, trying to get this passed. Roosevelt is also not able to pass anti-lynching laws for various reasons. That's another failure of his administration. FDR tries to help defeat some of the conservative Democrats in the South that would have opposed anti-lynching laws during the 1938 midterm elections. And this proves unsuccessful. He's really lost a lot of political capital as a result of the court packing scheme. And Republicans gain seats as well, especially in the North during the 1938 midterm elections. This signifies a real deteriorating relationship between Congress and President Roosevelt. And it coincides with the economy. We have slow, steady growth for a while, but then in 1937, we have a sharp recession. This graph is showing unemployment, so anywhere it goes up, that's bad. Over the course of 10 months, production drops by 1/3. 4 million jobs are lost. This looks like, oh no, here we go again. This is labeled the Roosevelt recession by opponents of Roosevelt. Business says that it is a lack of confidence in FDR's leadership that is leading to this problem. This cartoon is showing a Roosevelt intellectual using oily words or slick talk to try to solve the problems in 1937. The truth is, FDR had cut back the WPA after elections to slow down budget deficits. So this could have contributed to the loss in jobs and loss in growth. In 1938, FDR finally listens to the economists who have been telling him, mainly a man by the name of John Maynard Keynes, that the way to get out of this recession was for the government to spend. And in 1938, FDR finally listens to that recommendation and begins government spending on a wide scale. And the economy is finally moving in the right direction. However, Roosevelt had already lost some public support. In 1938, the Republicans won enough seats in Congress that when they formed a coalition, when they sided with and joined with conservative Democrats from the South, they are able to block a lot of New Deal social and economic reforms. So, the New Deal is effectively over as a result of the midterm elections of 1938.